Hello, I am Beth from Soulify. I am a marriage coach. I am a certified hypnotist. I'm a mom and a wife, and I'm back for another live. I have my great friend Steph Dsa here joining us, and we have an awesome topic for you. One that is really the foundation for creating a happy life of abundance and just creating a life that feels so complete. And talking today about self-love habits that every woman should adopt. So I'm going to bring her in just a second. She'll be here in a moment. Hello, Steph. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing, Beth? It's been
Oh,
a it's been a while. I don't know how long now.
it's been a while. Yes, I was a guest on Steph's podcast, Divine Feminines, and I think you know what it was? I looked back. It was episode 7, which is my favorite number, and it was season 4. So back in November, we had a great chat about transforming yourself, transforming your marriage. So I'm just delighted that I can reciprocate and bring you on to my live so our audiences can listen to our great conversation about really bringing self-love into your life so that you can live your best life.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. That was great. That transform yourself, transform your relationship. And this is actually quite a cool way to say self-care is part of your own self-transformation anyway, because self-care is self-investment, and that is so aligned with trying to become better and look inward and understand who you are and how you can be better. And that all then, has a massive impact on how you show up in the world and how everyone receives you and how you ultimately co-create your experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? Before we dive in any further into this, I'll let you just quickly introduce yourself. How's that?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Steph Dsa or Stephanie Dsa. I'm based out in London, the UK. I have a podcast, The Divine Feminines, and it's all about mind, body, soul empowerment. We talk everything from, how you can become your better self. We also talk about how you can, manage challenging relationships, dynamics, whether that's family, friends, or romantic. I'm also talking around like the moon and manifestation and high vibrational soul connections like soulmates and twin flames and some of those challenging journeys. And in my day job, I am a marketing tech strategic consultant and I work with big brands, but that is a bit boring to talk about that today.
I personally do love all the stuff that you just talked about, like moon magic and talking about soulmates and just everything energy. It's just amazing. There's so much that we can't see, but totally impacts our lives. And self-love, I think, is one of those things. It's a vibration for sure. I say love and gratitude are the highest vibrations out there. And self-love is one thing that I think we throw around the word, but how do we know if we actually love ourselves? Were we ever taught to love ourselves? Are there foundational steps to loving ourselves that we're missing out on? So I'd love to touch on some of those things today. So maybe tell me a little bit about your self-love journey. Were you taught to love yourself as a child, as a little girl?
Really good question. No, I didn't have this understanding. I didn't even know about self-love till much later in like maybe even my 30s. So not that long ago, to be honest with you. It wasn't something that was taught at home, and it wasn't something that was taught at school, and it wasn't something that was taught at church because I was brought up in a Catholic home and Catholic schools. So in every area or environment that I was, exposed to mentors or role models, nobody spoke about self-care. Very good question.
No.
So, yeah, I guess even from seeing others around me, and if you think about your parents and then elders, brothers and sisters, families and friends, elders and peers, I never really saw anyone doing or like doing those self-love practices and demonstrating them and actually saying I'm investing in myself, or this is something that I'm doing to take time out for me, look after myself, self replenish. That dialogue wasn't even spoken, so those words and that narrative was never even known. Um, i was i was just not aware that that existed. I just thought, even if you think about going to a spa or you go on holiday and you get your hair cut, or you have a nice day out and you do some shopping, you have an afternoon tea, or those things weren't associated with self-care. Like, we went on holidays as a child, I traveled a lot, but my parents never said, oh, this is a nice way to take time out and this is like how we self-rejuvenate. They never spoke in that way, and I guess they just did what they thought was best at the time. and they weren't able to, you know, understand that for themselves. They themselves weren't giving themselves love, so they didn't understand it, and they weren't able then to demonstrate it and explicitly talk about it in a way that could be of motivation, inspiration, and guidance, basically.
I think that's really well said. Self-love is such a inner thing, right? And like you said, we're doing external things, maybe going to the spa, taking vacations, whether that was necessarily looked as like restoring your health, taking that time out, but really it's such an energetic thing from inside. And if I were to ask people, like, scale of 1 to 10, how much do you love yourself? It's a really hard thing to figure out. So like, how do we figure out if you love yourself wholly? I have a few suggestions, but like, what would some of your foundational like kind of questions be, or hints if someone really loves themselves enough, or if they have some work to do in that department?
Yeah, some of the things I think about is actually, first one is, how do you talk to yourself? What's your self-talk like? Because I believe that we are our own biggest cheerleader. And so if we are not cheering ourselves on, why is that? And is there some kind of conflict we have with ourselves? So that self-talk and how kind we are in our self-talk and the self-compassion we give ourselves is a number one go-to for me to understand, you know, what level of self-love is there. If there's very negative talk or demeaning talk towards ourselves, then there is something that we are not, you know, coming to terms with, and that we're not fully accepting in ourselves to wholly love ourselves. I believe that self-acceptance is the way to fully self-love yourself, because you accept yourself as who you really are. You accept what is, you accept, you know, whether that's, you accept the intelligence that you have and the way you think and the way you like to express yourself. You accept the way that you look, all the way down to the shape of your nose and I don't know, the wrinkles on your neck, whatever it is that you accept, and you understand that that's who you are, and that, and you're still you know, a valuable, unique individual in this world. So that's probably one of my go-to indicators: self-talk and how you see yourself.
Yeah, I like that. I would also add to it, because it's so difficult to actually kind of put your hands on, asking yourself simple questions like, do I think I'm good enough? And it might just be like work. Do I think I'm good enough at work? But am I a good enough wife? Am I a good enough mom? Am I a good enough daughter? You ask yourself, am I good enough? And if there's any areas in there that you're like, no, I'm not, or you feel like a sinking feeling in your stomach, or a heaviness on your chest, or some guilt or some shame in there, and embarrassment, those are also indications that maybe you're not fully in your worth and loving yourself. Um, Asking yourself, am I good enough? The other one is, am I loved by others? Like if you feel like if others don't love you, that might be the aspects of yourself you don't love, because often when we feel judged by others, it really means we're judging ourselves. So I think
Yeah.
it's really important to kind of look at your beliefs about what you think is true about yourself, and if there's anything that's slightly negative or not completely in line with the vibration of love, it probably means there's still some more work to do in that self-love cup to get it fuller. And I think we're all on a journey to really love all aspects of ourselves, but we can over time get it fuller and fuller as we do this work to really go deeper into those maybe shadow aspects of ourselves or inner child wounds and healing those. And once we can heal those, then we love ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. I really think that the relationships are mirrors to us. So one of my, like, if you wanted to say what's another barometer check for my self-love, is the level and the harmony, let's say, and balance of my relationships. If I'm in relationships that are like, you know, with friends or family that seem to be argumentative, disharmonious, problems all the time, there's not strong boundaries, then there's something quite wrong there with that relationship. But it's a reflection of something in them versus something in me that I need to go and work on, because I'm not fully loving myself. You know, we can have toxic relationships, we can have unhealthy relationships, but when we love ourselves, we're able to be like honest with ourselves, and then be able to be authentic about that, set the boundaries, vocalize it, and then be able to know when we need to pull our energy back to retain our self-worth, and, you know, just be able to keep our cup full and not feel drained. So I think relationships are also a really good way to see how much we love ourselves, and how much that is then reflecting in our external reality.
I think that was really well said. I absolutely agree with that. When you feel like your energy's being taken away, I call them energy suckers. That probably means there's little holes within you, or there's areas within, I don't want to use the word holes, but there's like areas within you that you're letting that out because you're not loving yourself enough to have those boundaries, or maybe you don't have the skills to make those boundaries. That's a lot of it too. So let's talk about how to cultivate self-love, like some of the tools that we need. And we can talk about some that aren't really mainstream. Like we talk about meditation, but it's not just giving yourself 10 minutes. I think there's certain types of meditation that you need to do, but it could be as simple as like just sitting down for 10 minutes and just thinking, or 2 minutes just being quiet and just feeling your body. But let's talk about some of those things that we can do to really cultivate the self-love.
Sure. I wanted to kind of take this into a mind, body, soul aspect. So how can you love yourself from your mind, from the aspect of your mind in that dimension? Then, your body, how do you love your body? And then your soul and connect with your soul. So should I start with the mind first?
Yeah, you start wherever you want. I'd love to hear your
Sure.
strategies.
Okay, so for the mind, I mentioned it before. It's what is your self-talk like? And how are you talking to yourself? And that's a good starting point. But in order to then give yourself that love, I really like the use of affirmations, because when you say positive affirmations like I am loved, I am seen, I'm heard, I'm protected, I'm beautiful, I'm vibrant, I'm intelligent, I'm powerful, I'm grounded, the more you say this, the more that you're almost self-programming it into your subconscious. But saying that as a vibration has a powerful energetic impact to yourself and your environment, right? So I feel like saying that on a regular basis is also amplifying that self-talk, because when you're saying it, you're saying it out loud, and it starts to almost reduce the noise of the negative self-talk in you. So this increases while the negative decreases, to the point that I mean, I'd like to say right now, I hardly self-talk to myself in a negative way. If I ever sort of find certain, like maybe critiques coming up, I'm like, oh, I've noticed you're coming. Why? Is there something that you're feeling fear about or lack about? Okay, let's go and look at that. So that would be a great, I'd love for everyone that's listening and that does listen to this to feel that they can, be able to get to that point. But I think it takes time and it's a journey, and I'm still, trying to get there myself and keep it going. It's always on. It's about consistency. So I would say positive affirmations to really improve that self-talk. That's one part of the mind self-love. Another part of mind self-love is creating space and peace and silence in the mind, because our mind is always going all the time, right? Like, I need to do this, I need to do that. Now, I've spoken to many people that say that they think meditation is horrendous, they can't do it. And I kind of like just let them say what they're saying. But I don't want to be that person that tries to convince them that meditation is amazing, because I actually believe that some people can't just sit down, and it's a struggle to just sit down and be quiet. I forced myself to do it, and it took me several takes. It works for me, but even today, even when I do try to do it, I sometimes can go to noisy places in my mind, and there's nothing wrong with that. So what I would say is that you can take meditation in different forms. You can train yourself to start to sit down and try and be in silence for 5 minutes and just try to deep breath work is so great to bring yourself into a centered place. So just focusing on your breathing in and out, and just like the changes in your body from your chest to your stomach, and just noticing that can be a really good way to be focused in, to be silent and be present. But if that really is tough, there's some other really cool like meditation ways that you can take up. So walking, for me, a walking meditation is also really cool. So you might go for walks and play music, and you could play some music, but also if you're walking through nature, or if you have some nice sort of parks around where you can just tune into the noises and the sounds of the wildlife and the animals, or even the trees just, making their bristling noises, and anything like from, the little noises from anything around, from people walking their dogs and the dogs making their own little doggy noises. I said doggy noises. But or even kids just like playing, and that sound, just the natural kind of soundtrack around you, and just walking. and just saying to yourself, I empty my mind. Like I have setting an intention. So for all of these meditations, you could set an intention to say, I want to bring in more peace into my mind today, or I want to feel more at ease with myself today, whichever that is. I want to feel joy today. And then you go on that walk and you just kind of allow yourself, if you're saying joy, you might actually feel that you're enjoying that walk more. And I always think setting an intention before anything you do, whether even not just meditation, is such a powerful way to own the energy of what's going to happen to you. It's that you're owning that experience in many ways. And then the third one of meditation is cleaning. So for many women that listen to this, you might say, when I get stressed out, the first thing I do is I start cleaning because I don't know what to do. So I just want to clean, clean, clean. But if you're struggling to meditate, cleaning is a really good thing to tune into. I find I do a lot of cleaning on a Sunday, and I totally don't really think about anything. I mean, I do have things come up, but I put some music on and I clean. And in those moments, the mind is completely like focused in on cleaning, that I tend to get like moments of inspiration, or I get activations come in my mind of ideas, or oh my gosh, and that's where the mind is actually at rest, it's at ease, and your intuition starts to help you. So, even if you're stressed out about a situation, or you need to think of something that you want to create or do, or you just need to work out the next best step, your intuition starts to talk to you in those moments of quieting the mind. So those are the self-love tips for the mind, because not only does it allow you to access your intuition, you feel calmer. And I think that in itself is self-love.
Self-love is the end product of doing so much other work. You're getting yourself to so many different other states, and then what happens is you just feel that self-love. I think my self-love journey, I remember saying, like, I'd wake up every morning and say, I love myself. It's the first thing I do. I do a check-in. How do I feel? And
I
even if
love
I
that.
didn't fully love myself, I would say it. And it actually stuck. It took a while, but it stuck. And I know I was doing other work too, like doing the work with my subconscious mind. But what it does is when you do that work in behind, it brings it to the consciousness. So you catch everything you say about yourself. I even catch things I want to say about other people and realize, ooh, why am I judging others? Like I don't gossip the same way anymore. I
Yeah,
talk about
yeah,
little things the same way anymore. I really, everything I say has such intention to be a high vibration. And if it
yeah,
doesn't, I need to check myself and realize why. I get so curious. Like, why did I go to that level? What is in it? I don't blame myself or judge myself for it, but I'm like, something still is. I always point to the back of my head, something in my subconscious back here.
yeah, yeah. It's like
Something is
something for
still
shadow
back
work.
there, which is keeping me from fully loving myself and loving others. So I think this is so beautiful just to like have those mantras, which is very conscious and just getting so curious. But yeah, there's so much to get to that love process. So that's the mind. You're talking about mind, body, soul. Where do we want to go
Yeah.
next on our self-love
So
journey to really
yeah,
cultivate it?
so for body, I would say for me, it's twofold. It's what we put into our body. So how we're eating and what we're drinking and how much we eat. And the second one will be our physical activity and how we're looking after our body in terms of giving it the body needs exercise, body needs to, respire and release. So are we giving it the activities and the exercise that it needs? But first off, with food, I think that sometimes, and I think a good way to know if you're loving your body is if you're overeating, because that's the opposite. Like if you're overeating, then you're stressed. If you're distracting yourself with food and unhealthy foods, you're not treating your body with love and care. But yeah, you could be stressed and you're just reaching for the nearest chocolate bar. But every time you're stressed, you do that. That is not actually showing your body the love it needs. And so having more of a conscious way of looking after what you put into your body, I'd like to say, open and honestly, I think I absolutely love my body when I think about what I put in my body in terms of
Mm-hmm.
consumption. I fast quite a lot and I allow myself and my body to breathe. So fasting is also a way of saying, I'm giving you retreat, body. I'm giving you retirement so you can heal, so you can take time out. Now, a lot of people will say, fasting, I could never do it. in 2014, it might have been, a friend told me about fasting. And I was like, are you freaking crazy? At that point, I was eating everything from meat to everything, and I would eat all kinds of like junk. So I couldn't even conceive it. And that's the thing. Our mind will just say, that sounds extreme. I can't do it again. You know, like our mind just has these ideas and these limiting beliefs. But the fasting helps me to give space to my body to heal. And then it also makes me respect my body, because what I tend to do is I fast and I will meditate, but after that, I will then reward my body with something that I want to eat. And I really am intentional about what that is that goes into my body. So I'm like, what is the most nutritious, good, healthy food option I can choose? And I tend to use fruit because I love fruit. So I put a really nice, I love dragon fruit or some tropical fruits. And I'm like, that's how I'm going to break my fast. That's the first thing I'm going to put in my body. It's actually very healthy to break your fast with something like that. And then afterwards, you can have something a bit more substantial in terms of a meal. So when I think about the other foods I eat, I'm always like, okay, where can I get high vibrational foods? You know, foods that are going to give me really good response in my body. You know, chocolates and sweets and junk actually make your body feel really tired afterwards. So if anyone eats junky foods and stuff, you'll notice you'll get a bit of a high, and then you'll just plummet straight away, and you'll feel lethargic, you'll feel tired, and you don't feel motivated. But when you put good foods in your body, you actually feel really good. So that self-love of, I'm going to be deliberate about what I'm eating, what I'm putting in my body. And then after that, you feel great. Well, that is love, isn't it?
Absolutely. I have two things to add to that. So when we reach for carbs per se or sugary foods, often it's because of the serotonin. There's a physical, like, chemical reaction there. When you eat those, it produces more serotonin in your body, which is actually a comforting hormone. So there is real reason why we reach for like the ice cream or the bread or those types of foods, because our body will actually physically release the chemical that's going to relax us. The other piece is, for anyone listening, tell us a little bit about your fasting, if you don't mind, just briefly. What does your fast look like? How often? How long?
Yeah, so I actually practically do it every day. But funnily, I say that I tend to do it every day. Today I didn't, because sometimes I like to shock my body. So today I said I will actually eat earlier in the day. But usually I do a sort of a 16/8, which a lot of people know it's an intermittent fasting. Sometimes I do 24. So for 16 hours, I don't eat, and I just drink only water with lime or lemon or green teas, herbal teas. I don't consume coffee because I'm not into coffee, and I'm not a believer of coffee. I think it actually, anything that can get you a bit too hooked on is not something that's good for you. So I think that coffee can have that impact, but I've never been a coffee lover. So I tend to just have water or hot drinks, and warm water, hot water, like herbal teas, keep your appetite at bay. Like, you don't even feel hungry. It's actually incredible what it does to you. And then for 8 hours, if I do 16/8, then after the 17th hour hits, then I can break fast. And I tend to use fruits to do that. Then I'll wait a little bit, and then I'll actually have more of a nutritious meal. Sometimes I might have two small meals, right? And I'm breaking fast around 1, 2 p.m., sometimes 4 p.m. in the afternoon if I can go. When you start doing this regularly, you realize that you really just don't need that much in your body. And it's not unhealthy to work to operate like that. If you think of your digestive system, your colon is only so small. So eating so much food and trying to process so much food is actually not love to your body. It's actually over exerting your body and your digestive system. So yeah, so I might have one meal or two meals, and then I might even have a treat, because you can, when you start to get into this rhythm, there are some nice stuff I have that might be a bit sweet sometimes, but they're still kind of mindfully sweet. I don't go crazy. And then I break for fast again, and can still have hot drinks in that time, but obviously you're sleeping in that time, and you get up in the morning, I'll just have some hot water and lemon or lime, and then start my day. And the concentration levels, Beth, I mean, for work, I am super sharp. My brain is so like on point. I noticed, and a lot of people say, when I used to eat normal times of the day, and then you'd go out for lunch when you're at the office and you come back, you can't even work because I was eating quite carby meals because I was feeling very hungry. So I'd eat something with a lot of carbs, and then I come back to the office and I'm falling asleep at my desk. I remember falling asleep at my desk so much those for many years. That doesn't happen anymore.
Hmm.
Like my alertness and my concentration levels are through the roof. So yeah, does that help?
Oh, it does. And I have one more little question about for any women watching. Do you alter your fasting during your cycle?
I It's interesting. Yeah, very good question, Beth. I love talking to you. You're
I do
just so
too.
on point. So on my cycle, it's very interesting. A lot of women will probably a lot of people will relate to this, that sometimes you lose your appetite during your cycle. I go through phases where I just don't even want to eat. So it's really funny for me. Like when my cycle's coming, I sometimes almost think like I could go for a 24-hour fast. I'm not interested in food. And I know that that's something that happens with me. Now, some women might go, actually, that's not me. I actually want to eat. My advice is that always follow what your body wants. Okay, so if you really do, sometimes I don't fast. Like today, I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna just give my body something different because I'm fasting all the time. I know that I've got that. It's ingrained in me, right? I've got a very good rhythm. Sometimes I just want to eat a little bit more than I usually do, and I allow myself to. Or if I've not eaten throughout the day, I'll have a big fast. So, sorry, big fast, a big meal, and it's like actually sometimes too much, but I want to eat more. So during my cycle, I kind of just ride the wave. I
Hmm.
do tend to not want to eat much. And then there's phases where I'm like, oh, I could really pack in a good meal. And I'd say, you can still fast on your cycle. There is no, I'm living proof and evidence. I'm very healthy. I go and check sort of my weights, my fats, and all of that. I'm always constantly on top of my health, and fasting through your cycle is not a bad thing. I would just say if you're feeling a little bit extra weak and you feel like your body's kind of tired and you need to give yourself some food, some fuel, most definitely follow your own gut, literally,
Absolutely.
and
I
follow
agree.
your own guidance system because you are the best person to tell yourself what to do in that situation.
Yes, it's so important. I think one of the skills I teach them when I work with when you're learning to like listen to your intuition. So many of the women I work with, they've had their trust beaten down, their intuition beaten down because of infidelity. They knew something was happening, but they kept being told, no, 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 nothing's happening. And so they lose that sense with their intuition. So I say to start building that up. Open the fridge. If you're feeling hungry or thirsty, just say you're thirsty. You see the orange juice. You're like, do I want orange juice or would I rather have a glass of water? What is the first thing that comes to like it usually comes split second fast. Even before you ask the question, you almost have the answer. If it's like water, but then all of a sudden orange juice pops in, usually orange juice is like your mind or your ego kind of popping in, but you go with that very first hit that comes out just before you're done even asking the question. Would I rather have an apple or would I rather have that leftover pad thai? Just ask yourself these questions and your body will tell you really, really fast if you're listening. So that's a great way just to start building the intuition back up.
Yeah, yeah, I really like that. It's funny today. I didn't have much to eat. Well, I didn't, but I did eat in the morning and I had a porridge because I really wanted to try this porridge. I got it from Out and they do these really nice porridges. So I had that and I was like, oh, but then later on in the afternoon, I actually felt hungry like I would like to break my fast. And then I was like, okay, maybe I'll just have some avocado with a bagel. So I was about to make it and then and then I was like, well, let me make myself a matcha. That was it. I had the matcha and that was fine. And my body was like, yeah, we dig this. We love this stuff. And the matcha's are really good. I mean, it has caffeine, but it's natural levels of caffeine from green tea and very good for your health, yeah, antioxidants, and it helps you concentrate. So it was just the perfect thing for my had a long 1 hour afternoon call with a client and we had to go through lots of numbers and data and it was just the perfect kind of gig for me to just have that in the afternoon. So yeah, it's right, it's true, Beth. You kind of think you might need something, but actually your intuition saying, no, we want this. And if you're open to hear it, then it works really well.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's hop into cultivating self-love and the soul connection. Let's go there
Yeah.
next.
Okay. So for the soul, I really feel like the soul is where the soul and the heart are very connected. So it's about being in tune with what you really want and your true desires. So, it's not necessarily an exercise like I was talking about before about meditating for the mind, the self-talk, and then, what you put in your body in terms of what you eat and how you treat yourself in terms of exercise and getting yourself sort of, physically feeling good. This is more about, are you really honing in on what makes you feel happy? What is your heart being pulled towards? So you might be like, for example, growing up, your family's like, oh my gosh, you need to become, that mathematician or that lawyer, because that's, lawyers or a doctor is a really, really powerful thing to do. And that's going to give you good wages and you're going to have prestigious career. But in your heart, you want to be an artist or you want to be a musician. But the family are like, oh, but that's in your heart. And you can actually sing really well, draw really well. And you're like, oh, no, I just I've got to be the lawyer or I've got to be the doctor. And that's at that point you're following the direction of someone else's wants and needs versus following what you truly want and desire. So I think the soul and the self-care and love to the soul is like I always like to say, are you journaling? Are you taking time to just take time for reflection and ask yourself, what makes me happy? Am I doing the things that call my soul? Am I actually trading off choices because I think that that's better because that's what society says or that's what my family or my partner wants of me? Or am I actually doing the things that really like light me up, make me feel incredible? I mean, like for me, my dad would probably think I'm freaking crazy, right, Beth? But I probably spent a ton of money to go to Costa Rica just recently to experience some once in a lifetime type, moments. And you could probably do it backpacking and stuff, living it rough, but I wanted to do it in the really like luxurious way. And that was my self-investment. So my dad was probably like, that's probably a mortgage. You could buy another house with the house. I mean, I could definitely buy another house with the way I'm spending on my self-investment for travel and retreat. But I like to do that. I like to travel and see the world. It really calls on my soul. I speak different languages. So I love to be out there, being with people, speaking different languages and getting in touch with the earth. And I think it really activates me and it makes me feel incredible, and just hearing about other people's cultures, trying their food. I'm so exhilarated by it. And, there's a cost
When
to
are we
it.
hopping on a plane? I'm ready to go. Just hearing you talk like this. Like, let's go.
Yeah, I will tell you where I'm. Do you know what? It'd be so good to meet up with you, like in person. So, well, I'll tell you some of my travel plans, and if it's only for the High Vibe Soul Crew, right? So
Yeah.
you're one of them. So if you're in town, or if I'm over near you, then I'll give you a shout, and yeah, we could definitely meet up. And that's what I'm doing. I did my last trip and with one of my soul sisters, and she flew out for a few days with the kids. I had my own time alone. And then we had this moment where we were just having so much fun. But I was doing what called my soul, and that was just for me. If my dad found out and saw my bank statements and saw how much I spent, he would flip and go through the roof. But I don't care. I actually boast about it to him, going, yeah, I just spent all my work savings on this. Like, I'm just so happy. If I died tomorrow, my soul
Yeah.
is like
Those are
in
your
peace.
beliefs versus his beliefs. His belief
Yeah.
is maybe to save money for whatever he wants to save it for, whether it's just to have money in the bank. Some people just want to have a certain amount in the bank because it's there, but other people want to spend it. So it's all about your belief, as long as it's coming from, like you said, a place of intuition, a place that's going to feed your soul. When it comes from great intention, that's for your highest good. If that's what you want to spend your money on, money is just energy. It can come and go. And
Exactly.
so often we think we have scarcity mindset when we only have a certain amount. But when you can wrap your
Yes.
head around that, it comes and goes. If I were to go to
Yeah.
London, I would spend some money in London. That would end up with just say a waiter or waitress who would then invest it in
Yes.
this. Like the money just keeps going around the world. And I have a client, they pay me. I then go to London. I then spend that money, and it just keeps going around and
Yes.
around. And when you're open to it, more can come in. So many people are like, oh, I only have a 9 to 5 job that makes this much. How am I going to bring in more money? There's so many ways to unblock and block those areas so that money just kind of flows through you. So you could have these trips. You could have honestly anything you want in your life if you open yourself up to it and do the work to unblock.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's just one example, but following your soul, and your heart, it could also mean me, another example, I had to follow my heart and soul to really love myself and go on the journey I wanted. And that was divorce for me. One of the key steps, and I know you're a marriage, relationship coach, but one of my decisions was I did all of that, right? I was trying to make it work, but I was not happy where I was, and I had to follow my heart and soul. And my heart and soul was to leave that situation, to go and find myself and self-discover. And I'm truly very happy right now because I followed my soul, but it took me a while. And I do believe that the universe throws tower moments and moments of like destruction or really painful situations for you to then go, for it to say, are you really following your soul? So for anyone listening, if those moments are happening to you, that's also a telltale indicator to know that you might not be following your soul. There is, because what happens is we send out a vibration, an energetic signal when we really want something. Like, oh, I really love this book, and this book means so much to me. It actually does. It's a monology book, so it does mean a lot to me. There's a lot in here. But this book means so much to me. But in my 3D reality, that's what I'm vibrating from my heart space. But in my 3D reality, I'm hanging out with this book. Sorry, this is just my analogy. And I'm hanging out with this book that doesn't mean anything to me. Well, that's probably not a good idea because it does. But, you know, it doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm kind of giving conflict from my mind and the way I'm behaving in my reality versus my heart and my soul space. And so that's when the universe starts picking up on this conflict, starts dropping, I shouldn't say dropping bombs, but like I'd like to say dropping situations in front of you to go, wake up, like, is this really what you want? Time to make a decision. Because if you don't, we're going to keep bringing in this chaos and this conflict because you're expressing conflict between your mind and your soul and heart space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I wish that we could all hop onto this journey to really get in touch with your soul, your heart, your mind, really love yourself before crisis happens. But I think it's
Yeah.
part of the life journey that when you're feeling good and you're just going along with whatever's happening, things are good. But if we could notice those little signs sooner, whether it's panic attacks, whether it's heaviness on your chest, whether it's just being exhausted, whether it's that you're fighting with people, like if you could just kind of pick up on that stuff sooner, then we might not get to crisis mode. I know I got to crisis mode. I should have picked it up probably a couple of years before I did. But I also agree with you when you say divorce was where you ended up and it took you a while to get there. That's part of the journey. You had to do a bunch of soul work in there so that you could get to the place where you could have that clarity to be like, you know what, this relationship, it's not serving me anymore. I need something different to feed my
Yeah.
soul, to feed my heart, to feed my body so that I can get up every day with the energy that I need and
Yeah.
have that worth that you could do what you want. So no, I think that's great. I save marriages, but I don't save marriages. I always say like I transform you to save you, and then you have the
Yeah.
clarity to make that choice about your marriage. So often the marriages do improve. I must say that they do go up when at least one partner is doing the work.
Yeah.
But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes that clarity comes. You're like, I'm not, I don't need to be in this relationship anymore. I'm worthy of so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, we have talked about mind, body, soul. Is there anything else you want to add there, Steph?
I think, you know, one of the things for self-love that's important, just as a wrapper for the whole entire topic of self-love, is boundaries. Because healthy boundaries of our own sort of energetic space, how we want to live our life and our relationships with others, will allow us to be in a space to cultivate our self-love. If we're giving our power away to people, circumstances, and situations on a regular basis, we don't have enough to give to ourselves because we're feeling drained and depleted by our experiences in our external reality. So healthy boundaries is a really good way to sort of create that foundational starting point. I think a lot of my self-love activities and rituals, let's say, only really became, you know, let's say consistent and successful after the fact that I set really strong boundaries and important boundaries. And so I created those boundaries and they became much more healthier over time. At the beginning, it might have been quite strict for me because I had to, but then I managed to kind of, you know, reduce the boundaries or flex them a little bit to bring people in. But at one point, I kind of had to shut a few people out because I needed to make sense of myself. So it's not wrong to do that. And boundaries are a gift, not only for yourself, but for the other person. If the other person doesn't realize that that's a gift and doesn't respect it, then they can get the F out because they are not here for your highest and best good. So I would say boundaries is the foundation to starting all of this great self-care rituals because, you know, if you don't have enough time for yourself and you're not managing your time with your kids or your partner to give yourself time, how are you going to go and do some things for yourself or take time to meditate? there's no boundaries in place for you to have that time or to have the space or to just be in your moment. So yeah, I think that would be my final pointer for self-love tips.
I love it. And I have one final question for you. This one came up recently for me, and I'd love your take on it. What if there's something I just can't seem to love about myself, whether it's my feet, whether it's the way I don't communicate as well as I want to? What if there's something that's in you that you're just having so much trouble loving, and that it just keeps causing you to feel like, "Oh, I'm just not good enough," or I just don't like that I do that? What would you suggest for that person?
That's a really tricky one because if you're trying and trying and you still feel like it's not shifting, I think that that's something very deeply rooted, if I'm honest. And that's definitely something to do with the subconscious brain, which both of us have had experience with. And when I've sometimes not understood why something's happening, or I might not even realize that I'm holding a belief or something within me that's creating a vibration to repel something that I really want, it's because it's embedded somewhere through, you know, my ancestral lineage or something from my childhood. The subconscious brain can hold a lot of, you know, past life and current sort of childhood wounds. Whatever that is, I would actually say it would be worth, and I always think that even on our journey, trying to do this journey of transformation and self-love and, you know, become more enlightened, there's only so much you can do on your own. You are your own biggest healer, right? But
Mm-hmm.
having the facilitation of a coach is something I always recommend. So having someone to help facilitate something like going into your subconscious brain and being able to identify and then trying to understand those themes that you can break them apart and so deconstruct to reconstruct. And so that's where I would say on our journeys, I think everyone, if they can, and I know it's hard sometimes to fund it and it can be expensive, but at some point just to put a little bit of investment to have a coach to come and support you for certain points in your journey would actually help you shift those types of really tough and challenging moments, like I really can't shift from this, why do I really hate myself, or hate the way I look, or just hate the way I'm showing up when I'm with others. Like I feel very insecure around other people, whatever that may be. I would recommend getting the support of another person that can hold space for you and hold that sacred space for you and to listen to you and make you feel loved in that moment for you to really express what it is. And then that's where you're kind of almost going to have your breakthrough because you can then deconstruct, like I said, to reconstruct something much more healthier.
Oh, I love that you said that. You know what? Sometimes we just need support from others. We can do a lot on our own. We truly can. I always say everything you need within you is there to heal you. Like you have the energy to heal your body, whether it's physical, whether it's spiritual, whether it's emotional. We have those gifts within us. It's just learning how to tap into those. So, yeah, having the support of someone is always great if you find you can't take yourself the full way on your own or you're struggling for a certain period of time and you're just done with it, then definitely get someone on board with you. So, you know what, Steph, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for chatting about self-love and just cultivating self-love in three different ways, right? That we don't always talk about. So thank you so much for joining us. For any one of my viewers, how can they reach you?
Thank you so much, first of all, for having me, Beth. I love talking to you. You have the most sweetest voice and presence, can I just say? You're just angelic. I love it. For anyone that wants to follow me and the Divine Feminines, we're on Instagram, so you can probably see us here, but it's Divine Feminines with a Z at the end. And then it's Divine Feminines with an S on YouTube and all major podcast platforms. But the link is in our bio, and you can go and hit the link there and you can see all the different ways to listen to content. And on our YouTube channel now, I'm doing a lot more filmed content. The podcast is very much a solo gig now without guests, where I take a lot of people through more of my journey and more of what I'm sharing of what I've experienced and like updates there for them and updates on the moon. So we have a new moon on Friday, so stay tuned. I've got some stuff on that if you're interested.
Yeah, we could do a whole nother session on rituals around the moon, absolutely, and how to honor
Yeah.
yourself during those times. So we might have to hop into that one another time. But Steph, thank you so much. And anyone else that's watching, I have a great little guide. You can grab it in my bio, 3 Ways to Save Your Marriage, which is very much along these same lines of really going inward first. I truly believe you can heal your relationships through doing a lot of inner work. So anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. I'll put the replay up, and I'll make sure to tag you so anyone can find you as well, Steph.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, Beth. And
All
thank you,
right.
everyone. Sending love and light. Bye.
Bye.